At the end of the day, disruption ultimately is a positive thing because it moves the world forward. And I think where we're going with advertising, I think consumers are going to enjoy advertising better in the future as a result of ad blocking. And I think that marketing will be more effective in the future because it needs to be. And I think ultimately the industry is going to get more sophisticated.
From Toronto, PHANTA Media presents the Not So Corporate Podcast.
Hello. This is that sounded like I'm from up north. It's Mark Drager. I'm the host of the Not So Corporate Podcast. I'm joined here in studio with Kyle Wilson. Hello. Are you sure this is the right place? And sorry, that's an inside joke. And
Sudbury.
Leah Early. How's it going, Leah Early?
Leah Early.
East Gwillimbury.
I just realized what your hello reminds me of. PHANTA. Ho.
Every time I drive home, I hear a commercial for Wild Wing, and they're like, check out our new location in East Gwillimbury. And I think of Leah.
It's not new. It's been there forever.
Just so you guys know, anyone who wants to know where Leah lives, just
East
go
Gwillimbury.
ahead and Google it's Gwillimbury with a G, right?
Gwillem or Gwilling?
Gwillimbury.
Gwilling.
East Gwillimbury.
It's actually Gwillimbury.
Gwillem.
like
Okay,
Gollum.
great.
Gwillimbury.
You Google that, and then you will immediately so Google Maps will start out in space and zoom in right into the middle of nowhere, and then you're gonna go up.
It's not even on my TomTom.
It's about 20 minutes north of the middle of
that's
nowhere.
fair. I mean, how old is that thing?
You know, my wife's traveling down to Pennsylvania for like a girls' weekend of shopping.
Nice.
With a
and,
TomTom?
and she turns to me and she goes, "Where's our GPS?"
Oh.
And I'm like,
Nowhere?
we haven't used it. We haven't used the GPS in like 6 years. I don't know where it is. I don't think we have it anymore. And last time I tried to plug it
She's
in,
your
the
iPhone.
satellites. Well, but she's going down the States, so it's
No, you can load it up
data.
before, and you can
What?
just use GP. You can put this is what I did in Spain. You load it up before, then put your thing in airplane mode, and it uses GPS, and the little blue dot just goes.
Without any data.
Yeah. I did it
Wow,
in
you
airplane
just
mode.
blew my mind. So you load
That's
up the
cool.
map
Because it
in-
uses assisted GPS when it's in airplane mode.
Wow. That was the sound of me actually impressed. I'm not
No, it's
being,
good. It
being
really works.
sarcastic. Okay, cool.
You know what? Come
Anyway.
to think of it, we definitely have one, and I have no idea where it is either.
But they don't work, right?
They
Because
don't.
the
They do
satellites
not work.
move, and you have to update the software,
Yeah.
and you have to pay for it because the satellites are always like. I don't want to be too scientific on you guys, but there's these satellites in
please
space,
don't
and they
be.
move,
Yeah.
and then it doesn't work anymore, and then it thinks you're in the middle of a field,
Yeah, it tells you to drive into the lake.
And you do.
like Michael Scott.
Yeah, it says to keep going.
It says to turn into the lake. Sorry guys, you're just gonna listen to us laughing. Anyway, on this week's episode, we have this week. I said last week was just a regular episode. This week is a very special episode.
Yeah.
We have Jared Lindzon, and he is a writer. Now, okay, sorry, I had to leave a bit of a pause there because you're like, "Wow, he's a writer."
He's a writer.
No, he's actually like a real writer. He's not one of those,
Not a blogger?
blogging type writers. No, he writes
Like
for
me?
Yeah.
Oh.
He writes for Fortune magazine, for Fast Company. He writes for The Guardian. He's written for Rolling Stone and Marketing Mag. And then lastly on this list is the Globe and Mail. But he's like a professional.
What does that mean?
Anyway, so professional
Criticizing my research
professional writer. And we are going to have a really strong, big conversation on ad blocking. Now, if you're wondering, well, what is this? We're going to get into it. We're going to explain a bit about what ad blocking is. But essentially, the way I understand it, Kyle, like you're the expert on this in our office, but it's basically like a piece of software or something that you put on your browser, your
Yeah.
internet browser. So when you're using Netscape or Internet Explorer,
Or
you go
Mozilla.
ahead you go ahead and download this, and then it just basically just erases all the ads, right?
Yeah.
You just don't see them.
You just don't see them at all.
It doesn't even load them, so your
No.
pages load faster.
And the reason why I want to talk to Jared about this is because he wrote an article for Marketing Mag that we saw that we just thought was great. It perfectly talked about the challenges we face as marketers, what's happening within the marketplace, and why if you're not aware of ad blocking, you should be. Not because I'm telling you to go out and download I don't want you to hear this and go like, I didn't know I could block all my ads. Great. No, the other reason is ad blocking is not a good thing. from my point of view. And
What?
I think let's talk to let's get Jared on the line right now. We'll talk to him about this. Okay,
Yeah,
let's
okay.
go. Let's call him up. So as I mentioned in the intro, we're joined with Jared. Listen, man, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And so, you obviously, you're a writer and you really focus on all kinds of different areas, again, as I mentioned in the opening. But I wanted to talk specifically around ad blocking. And you came up because we've been really hashing this around the office a lot about what ad blocking means for content producers, what it means for marketers, what it means, going forward, and how marketers are going to be able to create content and get it in front of people if at the end of the day people are throwing on these pieces of software or add-ons or something to browsers to just shut it down. Can you walk us through quickly, for those who aren't aware of it, what's the situation, what's happening, what are these ad blockers, and why should it matter to us as marketers or content producers?
Absolutely. Well, ad blocking has been around for a long time, but only recently to become a really pressing issue, especially for marketers and publishers. It can no longer be ignored. In Canada, since 2013, the amount of people who are using ad blockers has doubled, and from 10% to 20% penetration, and it's almost it grew 48% internationally in 2015. The projected lost revenues resulting from ad blocking reached $22 billion in 2015. So this is no small issue, and something that advertisers and publishers should absolutely concern themselves with. Essentially, ad blocking is an add-on feature to a lot of web browsing applications that essentially does what it says it does. It blocks out ads. So banner ads do not appear, they do not load, they do not exist on the page. And more sophisticated ad blockers will block video ads and all types of ads. So the ads that marketers are paying for consumers to view are ultimately not getting loaded.
As an internet user, I love the fact that I could just not have to watch anything. But, the marketer side of me, the side of me that actually stops to watch these ads to see what's going on in the marketplace, I'm scared. I'm worried. Like, we're putting all this time and effort and our hearts into creating great content. And I know we're interrupting people by paying for placement. But if we can't pay for placement, how are people going to find the great stuff we're trying to create?
Well, that's certainly the challenge, and a lot of the creative solutions that are starting to come about as a result of ad blocking are really focused on being non-intrusive and ultimately being content that viewers would want to be interrupted with or would want to actually see. So, since ad blocking started taking hold, we've seen a huge increase in native ad buying because that is directly relevant content. It's useful content that doesn't disrupt or interrupt, ideally, in the user experience. One of the biggest complaints also with advertising online in general, not only is it disruptive and not only is it growing on a lot of pages, but it actually slows down browsers. It makes the internet experience less quick, less reliable. Things can sometimes crash when ads don't load properly. A lot of people are actually paying through their Wi-Fi and wireless fees for ads to load, and by taking the ads off the page, suddenly things are moving faster on their devices, and they're not being disrupted by these ads. So there's absolutely an appeal on the consumer side, but I think the real solution is moving away from traditional banner ads and those sorts of disruptive ads towards ads that are more native and things that people would want to be disrupted by. For example, I spoke for my article. I spoke with a company named Kip, and their main focus is on creating moments-based rewards. So, you're on an app that tracks your running, and if you beat a personal goal, then they'll give you a discount on a new pair of shoes. Things that are directly relevant to the consumer, and interrupting only at an opportunity where it's considered an achievement and not a burden to be, viewing that ad. So creative solutions like that are ultimately going to win the day in this new environment where ad blocking has become so widespread.
I don't really mind the death of banner advertising or Google remarketing, even for that matter, as much as we can use it. But I think for us, as commentators on advertising or marketing, I think the answer always is, well, guys, just create content that people want. It's not so hard. Don't force your crap down other people's throats. Just create the stuff that everybody wants. And that's well and good, because we actually have that intention with every single piece of media that we produce. And I think most people do. But even creating the stuff that people want and that they're going to like and it's really going to hit, you still have to have that little push. You still got to get it out there to get things started in a way. And my fear is if we lose that push, it doesn't matter how stellar the content is. I mean, like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I think, when Walking Dead, when AMC was fighting with one of the cable companies and they got dropped within New York, they did this great stunt where they put Walking Dead zombies on New York streets, and they did this big day campaign, and then they videotaped it and had all these press releases and all went out there. Creative idea, great content, really enjoyed watching it, but I only came across of it because of all the PR, all of the push, and then all of the spend that went behind it. So even though I like it, even though I want to consume it, I didn't even know it existed. So what are we going to do in this world where we can't even push stuff out that we know people will love?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, in your example, I don't necessarily see why ad blockers would prevent you from viewing that content. And especially with certain ad blockers that are out there. Now, some act as a blunt instrument and just simply block every piece of advertising media that the user is going to come across in their browsing experience. But a lot of the ad blockers out there are actually giving consumers the ability to whitelist certain products, certain companies, certain websites, so that they see all of the ads on the sites that they actually like to see the ads on. So if you're a big fan of AMC, maybe you want to see the ads when you go on their website. Maybe you can actually whitelist AMC or The Walking Dead, and suddenly, you're not missing out on those ads should you want to. But in that example, it seems like it's more of a viral campaign. It's something that would be shared on social media. It's something that's being shared through press releases. These are not avenues that ad blocking would necessarily prevent. There's still a big marketing industry out there that goes beyond banner ads. Banner ads are really the only place that ad blocking affects.
Well, what about YouTube pre-rolls?
YouTube pre-rolls.
Which is maybe it's a little bit closer to my heart, but YouTube pre-roll is something where, again, banner advertising, I don't really care about that. I mean, it's like, it feels really old, and the click-through rates are super, super low, and the return on investment, I don't know if it's there or not. But when it comes to any kind of rich media pre-roll, that's something where I'm like, oh man, like this is where it struck me. It's like, okay, so maybe today very few people are doing it, but where are we going in the future? And what are we going to do, and how are we going to overcome that? Because in the case I mentioned about Walking Dead, if we did this campaign today and we wanted to really get it out there, we would want to get it on social media, we would want to get it listed on Reddit, we would want to go through Facebook, but we would also release, like cut downs or teasers, and then do YouTube pre-roll, and then tie it to fan-specific pages or other YouTube channels that are specific to that to try and get it going.
Right. Well, let me turn that around on you a little bit. I mean, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I personally hate YouTube pre-roll videos. I think it disrupts the video I actually want to see. It's annoying, even if it's just 5 seconds. It's just a pain, and especially it's one of those things that takes up a lot of data and a lot of your browsing speed. I personally don't like YouTube pre-roll, so I would opt out of that. Whereas you, as someone who enjoys YouTube pre-roll, you're absolutely able to keep that going and just select that specific setting. I would like to see the YouTube pre-roll. Now, for this Walking Dead example, I think it's a really cool campaign. I totally agree with you there, but I wouldn't want to be bombarded by it. I would enjoy seeing it on a fellow Walking Dead fan's Facebook page. I would love to see it happening on the streets of New York, but I don't necessarily want to see it when I'm trying to load a video about something completely unrelated. So I still have faith that if marketers went out of their way to, put some money and effort behind this campaign, and if it was a really well thought out and well-executed campaign, I might not see it in a YouTube pre-roll, but I'll certainly come across it elsewhere. And if I did come across it in a YouTube pre-roll, that might change my impression of it. I think if I'm seeing something that my friends are posting on Facebook, check out this really cool campaign for The Walking Dead, I would have a really positive experience with that piece of media. Whereas if it showed up as a YouTube pre-roll, as someone who doesn't appreciate that sort of advertising, it would give me a negative brand experience. And
but Jared, who's paying? Yeah. Who's in socially, philosophically? I love where we're going with this discussion. Who's paying for your content? I mean, the whole YouTube community is based off of a revenue sharing model that is diminishing, but it's based off of, I mean, even with people putting up their own content for free, at the end of the day, smart content costs money. It takes time, and it's fair to say us marketers should produce better stuff, but sometimes there aren't budgets to support it. There's not time. The clients aren't willing or whatever. So there's other circumstances. I'm not trying to make excuse for bad marketing. But big picture, who will pay for this, right? Like music went through this, where everyone was stealing music, and the music's like, crap, who's going to pay to produce great music? And then other kind of good music came up, but there's still a revenue source. Television's going through this. Who's going to pay for the television production for the very best things? YouTube is a community made up of people who produce content that need to make money too. So in this world where there's no ads interrupting you, so it's not us marketers interrupting your user experience. That's just the cost of the free media.
Right, but it's perhaps the time and the place that the ads are appearing that are not resonating with audience members. I would argue that as a marketer, you would want to reach your audience at a time and a place where the audience wants to be reached. So, for example, if there's a YouTube star that I'm a big fan of, that I'm going to watch their videos and there's no pre-roll ads to support them, they might see the revenues drop a little bit, and they might have to incorporate a little bit more native advertising into their content, which will force them to be a little bit more creative with that native ad in order to not jeopardize their audience, but is moving from one form of advertising to another. So I might not see the pre-roll video, but maybe they've found this YouTube influencer who have come to YouTube to watch, who's talking about the very thing that I've skipped. It's not just one way of reaching consumers. I understand that the content absolutely needs to have somebody to pay for it. I mean, I'm a journalist myself. This is something my industry has been struggling with for a very long time. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to listen to what consumers are saying. And through the use of ad blockers, consumers are saying that they generally don't like certain types of advertisements. And if this many users are delivering this message through the use of ad block, it's very telling of how they feel about these ads. And if they are having negative experiences with certain ads, wouldn't it be ultimately better for the brands if they weren't experiencing that negative situation, but we're actually getting the ads from more trusted sources, like through native advertising, like through social sharing? That might actually be more effective from the advertiser standpoint, and ultimately it could even be cheaper.
I agree as well. I hate pre-roll ads, and but they set you up for hating them. You don't want your marketing, because marketing already is something that's challenging, like you're trying to convince someone to spend money or to buy into your product. You don't want to start from the point of them already being annoyed because it came up on pre-roll when you're trying to watch a million videos in the day for work, because I get that, and it's the same ones over and over. And even if you originally thought the video was cool, like that Danny DeVito Nespresso one, after a while you're like, I hate this video, and I'm mad at Nespresso, right?
Absolutely. It's exactly what I'm saying. It's that advertising online has gone to a point where it's turning potentially positive brand experiences into negative ones by bombarding users, and the users who are trying to take control back from the marketing industry through the use of ad blockers, I think they're ultimately not saying we don't want to be advertised to ever. I think they're saying we don't want to be advertised to in this way. It's not that there's this huge revolution taking place where the world has rejected the advertising industry. It is this one form of advertising that many people have kind of raised their hand and said, this is annoying to me. And ultimately, I think that message should be read by marketers as this isn't the proper way to reach our audience.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that fact. But I would disagree saying that it's just this case. I mean, TiVo let people skip. I mean, even before that, before DVR, right? We in the day we used to have a VCR that you could hit a button and it would fast forward through all the commercials for you, so you didn't have to deal with that.
If you tape recorded the shows you wanted to watch,
before PVRs we used to do that. We used to set up every single. You'd schedule every show that you wanted to record, and you'd watch it on your own time. But it would time code the commercials and it would fast forward through them for you automatically. So it's not like if we could skip all ads, everyone would, right?
Potentially. I mean, historically speaking, actually, the worst thing that ever happened to TV advertisements was the invention of the remote control. Because all of a sudden you didn't have to get up off the couch to change the channel, and people were flipping around. Even when they had 4 channels to choose from, they're going to go to the other 3 when the ads come on. This is almost like a natural part of life. For as long as there's been advertising, there have been ways to avoid advertising. I think that the way the world is moving, generally speaking, with technology, it's becoming a lot more personalized. It's understanding what people's preferences are. And while some people might, I know people who absolutely love TV commercials. I know people who I know people who go to movies, 20 minutes early just to see the previews. Some people love
Before the trailers, though.
Too. Well, yeah, but there's ways of reaching the right audience member at the right time, as opposed to the sort of blanketed approach that is largely employed right now, where maybe 10% of the people seeing that ad actually find it relevant and haven't seen that same ad 50 times already. I think that there's enough resources out there in the advertising industry that they will still reach that same consumer, but maybe not as many times, and that might ultimately be a better experience for the consumer with that brand.
The time that I enjoy, because I watch a ton of ads, and I go on Marketing Magazine every week. I go on Ad Week every day because I'm looking for stuff that I want to blog about, right? For my job.
So but you're not the ideal target.
No, I hear you, but I want to watch ads when I want to watch them, where I want to watch them, and not like have them when I'm.
That's how I am.
Listen, guys, this is all well and good.
This
is all well and good.
Okay, but a good example of a normal person is if I'm thinking, okay, I would like a new shampoo, and I'm a female, and I go online and see a cool shampoo commercial, then I would maybe go use that shampoo.
No, you wouldn't. You would probably do research. You'd look at bloggers, I think.
Yeah, and I see a
do.
video of what's that blonde blogger that everyone likes that has a football and
I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about,
I have
the girl.
no idea who you're talking about.
Blonde? I don't know. No.
Yeah. Anyways, if she was I use this shampoo, and then she that was an ad in her or a pre-roll in her thing or something, maybe, I don't know, if I went looking for shampoo ads and found a cool one, I would be thank you, I enjoyed that, great marketing. But if they just keep coming up and I'm not even looking for a new shampoo, I'm annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe shampoos.
Listen, I'm not defending. I'm not trying to defend it. What I'm trying to say is we only have so many tools and so many levers we can pull as marketers and advertisers, that if we philosophically want to say that this form of thing is wrong or bad, then we'll pack up and go. There's no cost structure. There's no revenue model to support the very work that we do.
Advertising is wrong and bad.
Hang on. Let me ask Leah a question here. Leah, if you were in the market for a new bottle of shampoo, a new shampoo brand, and you went onto YouTube and the pre-roll ad that came up was for a new bottle of shampoo, how likely would you be to explore that brand versus if the YouTube video that you had gone to see was a person that you trusted, that you enjoyed watching their content on YouTube, and they happen to mention the type of shampoo that they use, and you happen to think that they have great hair? Which of those two forms of advertising do you think would be more effective?
The second one, obviously, right?
But there's no scalable model for delivering that content and that specific experience for everyone, right? So the benefit of YouTube pre-roll or even remarketing, which is banner advertising, is extremely targeted, specific, time-specific, message-specific, targeted. It's in fact supposed to be, theoretically, it's supposed to be more targeted than your example, because I may be watching the shampoo woman video with no interest of actually buying shampoo, but instead because the thumbnail had her in a bikini, and I'm like, what the heck is this? And I will watch it, and so it's supposed to be much more targeted. That's the thing. Pre-roll is actually supposed to be extremely targeted. It's not supposed to be this BS blanket that we just shoot crap out there and hope it sticks.
Like TV.
Right. No, I definitely see the validity of that argument, without a doubt. But at the same time, I feel like as targeted as they are and as well intentioned as they could be, they're looking to advertise to people who are actually looking to solve this problem. I think at some point you cross a threshold of being insightful to being annoying. The first time I'd see that ad, I might be intrigued. I might look into it a bit further. But 3 weeks after I've purchased my new bottle of shampoo, I'm still getting the same damn ad. I think that there's
there's something to that. You know, I've been talking on the previous episodes about how I'm looking into getting a supermoto bike. Do you know what a supermoto bike is?
I don't actually. That sounds cool though, just based on the name.
Yeah, it's a dirt bike with street tires. Anyway, I'm looking at that,
Cool.
and Honda keeps bloody blasting me stuff. It's like, come in for the spring event, you know, like buy a motorcycle right now, like every single time I'm on YouTube. But I forgive them because they want to help me get my supermoto bike.
Do you know how many diaper commercials I see on my pre-roll? That it's Pampers all the time.
Okay, I'm totally against. I'm gonna jump on this bandwagon.
Yeah.
I'm against the ads. I use ad blockers, but I'll tell you a story because I'm looking at my shoes. They're Toms, and the reason why I got them was because I was listening to a podcast who talked about the guy who founded the company.
Toms, yeah.
And then it's like, oh, cool,
it's buy one, give
interesting, yeah. And then they talked about his book. I'm like, oh, cool, I'll read his book. And then I read his book, and then I was like, I really like what this guy's all about. And then I bought some shoes.
Great. So how much were your shoes to purchase?
$100.
$100.
Yeah.
How much of that revenue do you think they kept? So they sell direct, right? Or did you buy at a retail location?
Direct. Online.
So you bought direct. So they probably cost them probably what, $15 to make a pair of shoes or something?
Maybe.
And so they're keeping that money. They had to, like, the stars had to. I'm not saying awareness. I'm not saying I'm not saying awareness isn't great. I'm not saying, again, I'm not arguing against really smart creative in an extremely targeted approach. I'm just saying that you're more on the like cool PR gravy kind of, you know, like you're a lucky bonus that you bought into their culture. Right? You are not the person who, as a marketer, I can turn to any executive and say, I would like you to give us $150,000 this year. And our plan is to hope that we can get on some podcasts and write some. I mean, that's PR. It's like
brand awareness, though, and maybe brand awareness is more effective than
sure. It's all great. At the end of the day, though, the whole benefit to anything that's pre-roll driven or banner driven or anything else, any kind of really smart internet marketing thing, is that you understand exactly what is being dropped to the exact person is being dropped at the exact time. You understand exactly what it costs to give that message to them, so you can turn internally and say, I need this much money to do it. And I understand it's putting marketing and systems before audiences in that case, but you know.
So it's because
some people reject the tracking too. Like some people just don't want you to be keeping tabs on them.
So get off the free internet then.
Yeah.
Don't use Google if you don't want Google to track you.
That's true. But what if people end up rejecting ads, and then like YouTube already has a subscription model, so you could just, you know, that could just take over if people really reject ads. Everyone just gets on the subscription.
There's always the freemium way to go, which a lot of companies that would prefer to have advertisement, freemium is definitely a legitimate alternative. And Mark, to what you were saying before, you know, those are all important conveniences or reasons why you know, online advertising is important to the industry. But if you look at it from a consumer perspective, it doesn't quite line up. So the fact that you can, you know, pitch a certain campaign with certain outcomes for certain audiences that's going to reach certain people at certain times, you know, the average consumer doesn't care. At the end of the day, they're being bombarded by a message that they don't want to receive, and that's really all that matters. And yeah, it's going to take a lot of adjusting for the industry to sort of come to grips with that. But that is the reality, and the fact that the tool exists, you know, Pandora's out of the box. It's not going to be taken back. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of pain points for the industry moving forward as a result of this. But it's not going back to the way it was. It's only the penetration of ad blocking is only increasing.
And so, what do we do about it?
Well, I think what you do is really, as I said before, really focusing on the types of ads that cannot and will not be blocked, and focusing on unobtrusive native advertising. And try and reach consumers in ways that they would want to be reached at times that they'd want to be reached at. And you know, there's been a sort of a classic idea of when and where to reach consumers that I think is going to need some reevaluating, because consumers have largely said that they're being reached at the wrong time and place.
And you know, sometimes it works too when, you know, when the ads get uploaded like as videos on YouTube. That works because if it's interesting enough to an audience that maybe you relate to, you end up watching it at some point because someone shares it or something. That happens to me all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ads that people don't consider ads. Whether it was Volkswagen's Super Bowl commercial with the little dude being, Darth Vader or whatever. I mean, it was a Super Bowl ad. It's a commercial.
It's an ad, but it's
no one complained about watching it. Right? It's cute. It's funny. It's great. And I agree that that's a way to go out there. I guess what I'm trying to wrap my mind around is what we do about it. What all our listeners do about it. I mean, yes, we have to produce smart content. I'm going to keep coming back to it, right? I know we need to produce smart content. I know we need to be targeted. We can't be, Leah, your point about seeing the same ad over and over and over again. That drives me crazy. So what you can do and what we do is you set the number of views. You say, only show it to this person 3 times. And if they don't click on it in 3 times, don't show it again to the next day or even wait a few days. Only show it to them for a 3-week or 2-week window. Make sure we're turning over our content. I don't think this is, maybe my problem with it is I don't think this is at the pre-roll. I don't think this is YouTube's, the fault is with pre-roll of the system. The fault is with terrible people who aren't just,
programming
they're not doing it right. They're doing stuff that pisses people off.
That's part of it.
Right.
People aren't programming it properly.
People have certainly ruined it for the rest of you. There's no argument there. I mean, this isn't, every advertiser isn't pissing off every consumer, but there's enough advertisers out there pissing off enough consumers that when ad blocking became an option, a lot of them decided that they would employ that option. So, this is no one individual person's fault. It's actually, as I put in my story, it's a result of a perfect storm of factors at play here. But it is the new reality.
Now, Google is not going to allow all of their different properties and revenue sources to be eroded. So, is there any talk in the marketplace, or is there any kind of speculation in terms of what they're going to do to come around this? Because their whole revenue source is based off of providing targeted ads to targeted people. They're not going to allow this just to go to carry on.
Right. So. As I mentioned, a lot of the ad blockers do not work as a blunt instrument, blocking every single ad, no matter what. A lot of them are based on whitelisting. The individual user has the ability to whitelist certain websites, certain advertisements if they want to see them. At the same time, the way that these ad block companies, specifically AdBlock Plus, the one that I spoke to for my story, they told me that the way that they pay for the overhead that's required to keep building a better and more precise ad blocking tool that isn't just a blunt instrument, but actually just blocking, the minimal amount of ads, is by collecting revenues from companies, the big publishers that are out there, like Google. Not Google specifically necessarily, couldn't reveal which names there are, but basically there's a few major publishers out there that care enough and are concerned enough about ad blocking and have enough of a budget that they can pay a small fee to have no Google ads blocked. And then, it is, some people would call that extortion, and it was called extortion many times over in the article that I wrote. Others would call that, the consumer taking power back from the publishers. However you want to put it, it is sort of the way this whole situation is shaken up, in that, some of the ad blockers are taking money from the big publishers like Google to ensure that all the Google ads get through, or all the Amazon ads get through, or whatever company it may be.
Some people fight back too. Some companies fight back. Like, you can't go on a Condé Nast property and expect to read their stories anymore, because if you have ad blocking on, you'll get blocked, and it'll say please turn it off, and you can view the article.
And I really like what Forbes has done too. If you go to the Forbes website right now with an ad blocker on, it'll say, hey, we see that you have an ad blocker on. If you want to keep reading this content, by all means, go for it. But we'd really appreciate it if you would click this button right here. It'll whitelist us and allow us to put ads onto your page. And since we already know that you don't like ads, we'll make it an ad-light version. It'll be as few ads as possible, much less than our normal site. And that's sort of their compromise with users. And, I haven't seen the numbers, but I'd imagine that a lot of people would oblige to that very reasonable request, where they've acknowledged that ads have gotten a bit out of control on their website. They understand why people are using ad blockers, and they're kind of meeting them in the middle.
Some video sites just don't work either. There's some news video sites I go to, and if you have an ad blocker on, the video won't load. You have to unblock it, or turn off your ad blocker, then it'll load the ad, then it'll load the video, because it's checking to make sure
that's like the old days where I used to have all my cookies shut off, and then finally I was like, oh gosh, you can't surf the web without cookies turned on. So you finally just give in.
And I don't know if it's as widespread as people think it is, because like I visited my parents over Christmas, and they didn't even know what an ad blocker was.
Yeah, but your parents are old.
50s.
So who's using these? Who's using these ad blockers then? Or, I mean, is it mostly just the young kids these days?
I mean, you may have been able to. I would say the early adopters, generally speaking, with most technology, is younger people generally. But right now, we're talking about 20% of the internet using population of Canada. I'm sure it skews younger. But that's a large chunk of the country. I would say that everybody up to your grandma might be using it.
Well, my grandma's not on the internet, so she has. she doesn't even have. She doesn't even have an answering machine because in the 90s she thought it would be too confusing for people. So
there actually are stats that like the number one segment of ad block users is video gamers, because whereas 20% of the population approximately is using ad blockers right now, something like 50 to 60% of those going on. I forget the names of the sites, but they put out a report recently. There was a handful of video game blogs, and their target demographic is, of course, very technologically savvy. They were experiencing extremely high rates of ad blocking on their sites, to the point where they were concerned they wouldn't be able to continue. So definitely within the gaming community, there's a big, higher than average uptick of ad block users.
It is pivoting a little bit, like the lifestyle community, like Instagram.
What does that mean? Hold on. What does that mean?
Lifestyle, like people who have like beauty products or like exercise products. Like there'll be personalities. Personalities on like Instagram, and they'll get paid by companies to say, I use this product.
Did you think that? See, I can't remember what I was reading, but
I guess that's native.
Something dropped this week or last week where, was it like a clothing store or something? I can't remember if it was Saks or who it was, but someone was paying. They were paying bloggers and Instagram people to wear their clothing. They would send them the dress, then they would pay them to take a picture in it and talk about how awesome it was, and these people were not. They got spanked because they weren't sharing the fact that this was paid promotion, and there's an ethical issue with whether they should be declaring the fact it's paid promotion or not. I can't remember all the circumstances.
I thought you had to, because I read a lot of mom blogs and they always say like whether they're paid or not.
Because that is it's sometimes free. Sometimes they say, well, I didn't get paid, I just got sent free stuff or whatever.
Yeah, they'll be like, they send this to me for free, full disclosure, but I used
that's because they're ethical and they're great.
So. As a journalist, there's very hard and fast rules about this. There's no gray area in journalism. It's very clear. But when you talk about blogging, when you talk about social media influencers, the ethical standards are murky at best. Now, as a savvy internet user and as a fan of a particular Instagram account, for example, when I see an overly promotional post, I don't need them to necessarily say this was paid for by so-and-so. I know just by looking at it. Although if they are really good at the way in which they present it and they do it in a sneaky way, there are ways to do it without people realizing. And I do think that they should ideally be disclosing that. I don't think you can hold them to that high of a standard. These are people who are getting paid for sharing their thoughts and sharing their pictures, but haven't really been trained on the ethical side of, journalism or what have you. So that's definitely a murky area. But I actually just wrote a story last week in marketing about, a Toronto-based company that will connect, and they exist all over the place, that actually exist to connect social media influencers who have 5,000 or more followers with marketers, with advertisers, and it's a platform where you can sort of pick and choose the category of influencer you want. You pay based on how many followers they have, The platform itself makes sure that those followers are real and not robots or fake or paid to be there. And there's more creative ways of reaching these audiences though than ad blocking. I think that's the point. Even if it is murky territory right now, even if there's a lot of moral gray areas, I think that that's sort of where things are moving. And I think that ultimately the consumer is going to decide whether, these native ads that weren't declared native ads are acceptable to them. If social media influencers start losing followers because they are seen to be deceiving their audience, then they're going to have to change their behavior and the market is going to correct itself. We're kind of in this transitionary period. There's a lot of growing pains right now, but I think the influencers themselves are going to have to figure out how to strike a balance between, earning revenues through native advertising, but also keeping their audience satisfied. And that'll be up to the individual influencer to determine.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I actually don't mind Instagram ads. I think I was just trying to figure out why I don't mind them.
60 seconds.
Well, the thing is they don't play with sound. And you can scroll right by them, so I don't feel like they're really.
Yeah, because it's on my Facebook, right? So it's off the Facebook video platform.
Yeah,
so, and
Facebook
a lot
of times it isn't video.
On
my Instagram feed, a lot of times it's like women's clothing.
But that's harder to do on YouTube because it's sort of like video by video, so you can't. Really scroll
like I don't know.
Past.
Yeah. I guess it wouldn't work that way, but like with Instagram, I feel like it's not offensive. It's like one picture. Usually they're nice, and then you can just go by. But I often find myself stopping and like looking at clothing.
Right. And so if you had the option, to one day block all of your Instagram ads with the push of a button, would you choose to do it?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't, right? I'd be like, it's not that big of a deal to me.
Intrusive.
It's not now, but if you had a button, Leah, that could push out of Instagram every single stupid inspirational quote, would you do it?
I would do that. I would do that.
Never mind ad blocking, quote blocking. Let's go that way.
Immediately unfriends the person that posted it and sends them a personal message. It's like, dear person, Instagram is for photos, not for quotes.
Yeah, be amongst those who dare to dare, right?
Here's an example of a photo.
Sorry, this is an ongoing rant that we have in our office. We think Instagram is not, sorry if you do this, our Instagram is not for inspirational quotes.
Photos only.
I would have to agree with you there.
Yeah, when it's just like, it's like a black screen or it's like a sunset and then it has white text and it's like.
So I feel like in this conversation, I feel like a bit of a Republican who's like, failing to admit.
I love guns.
No, not like that. Failing to admit that climate change exists. Like I feel like I'm one of these guys where it's like, you guys are all like, listen, something's happening here. And me like, well, what are we going to do? No, let's ignore it. So I feel like in this conversation, I'm a bit in that position. But one of the questions here, which I would love for this to be the easy way out, is there a future or a way where we could just ban ad blocking and then we could just keep on doing what we're doing as marketers? Or
no.
You're really going to make me get better at this, eh?
Well, they built it into iOS. That's the scary part.
Ad blocking?
People were freaking out about it when it came out. Yeah, it's built into your Safari.
I didn't know that, but I bet it doesn't block any Apple ads.
Oh, yeah, probably not.
Actually, after ad blocking happened, soon after became anti-ad blocking software, and then after that was anti-ad blocking software. You can now get anti-ad blocking software that blocks the anti.
It's an arms race.
That's like the old in the old days there used to be the radar detectors. Right? And you can get a radar detector for your cop, and then they would get detectors that would detect radar detectors, and then you would get ones that were better. And finally, it's just like you both pull over, and the cop knows you have all this gear. Yeah. You know they have all this gear. You just look at each other and go, like, give me the ticket already.
Right.
Everyone knew a guy in high school that had a Celica and a radar detector.
So I think the message to marketers is then, don't spend the next 10 years caught up in this arms race, because it's gonna just keep on going. Every piece of technology that you're gonna come up with that will defend against ad blocking, there will be something else very quickly to defend against your solution, and then you're back to the drawing board. You can go in circles like that for as long as you want, but I don't think you're ultimately going to get to a place where you're satisfied.
We had Scott Stratton on from Unmarketing a few weeks ago, and he basically was just going on about the fact that marketers ruin everything.
Oh,
I think it's true though. I think we get a good thing. We're like, wow, this is really good. This is working. And then we're like, can we do like 100 times more of this? And people are like, sure.
This, please?
And then we're like, can we do 10 million times more? And then it gets ruined. And then we go on to the next thing, and then we ruin that. And I think there's a certain truth to that.
Can we find out what blood type they are and market to that, please?
If you're this blood type, you're going to love these shoes. But people still make TV commercials.
What's that?
To your example, sorry. Oh, can I jump in here?
Yeah.
So to your example of, we found something that works, let's multiply it by 10 million. The ad blocking craze started, or more powerful ad blockers started popping up shortly after the recession, because after the market crash, as you know, publishers were trying to monetize digital as fast as they could. It was more of a volume play. And they were saying this one ad is getting us a good amount of revenue on this page. What if we put 20 more on the page? We can make 20 times the revenue. But at the same time, the programmatic ad exchanges that started to pop up at the same time too created a hyper-efficient market where any available space of ad inventory online could be filled in an instant. And that's where you see this good idea, like, hey, a small amount of banner ads are actually effective. Let's blow it out to 1 billion times that. That's where consumers start saying, wait, hang on, that's a little much.
But my question was, like, people still make TV commercials, and other than my parents, I don't know anyone that watches TV commercials when they're watching TV.
I do.
Yeah, but hold on. People are still making them, but the budgets have continually. People still make music videos, but no one's making a $500,000 music video, which means that they're not hiring 80 different staff or crew members, which means that no matter what, the economy is still shrinking. The economy of production.
I think
Those
people
dollars are going elsewhere.
What's that?
The same dollars are going elsewhere. Just because they're not buying, a TV ad production company, maybe that just means that as, a production company, you might want to look into other types of productions to get into. But those ad dollars are going to be spent. The ad budgets aren't slowing down because of ad blocking. They're just being reallocated. And I think the people who are going to emerge victorious at the end of the day are those that have found solutions and found better ways to reach consumers in ways that can't be blocked, because that's where companies are going to start allocating their ad money more so in the future.
Right.
I think you're wrong. I think Taylor Swift still makes huge budget.
Snapchat stories.
Huge budget.
That's not.
Music
But
videos.
yeah, but you can't.
Rihanna. I think Rihanna is.
No, you can't.
That's
point
top
to
tier, though.
Better give me my money.
No, you cannot point to the exception and say that that's the standard rule. Okay, and sorry, this is getting really feisty. Eh?
Most musicians are poor and they don't have money.
I would say that is a demographic thing. If you look at TV ads right now, they're primarily targeting the older generation, knowing that that's a demographic that's more likely to be consuming the TV ads. Whereas, kids who might not own their own iPod or iPhone and are primarily watching or getting their music through YouTube and Spotify and free Spotify accounts, that's where, that's their ad demographic. That's the type of ads that you're going to see around those videos, because they know, and that's why Taylor Swift will spend $500,000 on her music video, because she knows her audience is going to be coming to YouTube to consume her content.
Right, but back in the day, she would have spent $2 million on it. That's just where I'm going on this.
I think she did that. The Bad Blood video. Do you know who's
Leah,
in that? Ellie Goulding's
calm
in it.
down about Taylor Swift.
Meredith from Grace. It's crazy.
She is top tier.
It's very difficult to remain calm when talking about Taylor. She's very polarized.
It's what I'm speaking to is, I've had conversations over the last few months with different agency owners. Not huge international, but respectable, independent, larger agencies working with national brands here in Canada. And they're talking about the fact that budgets aren't where they used to be. That yes, total spend is increasing, but the spend is shifting into places that requires marketers and agencies and strategic people to be able to be extremely efficient and extremely smart. And the clients are asking for more data, more insight than ever before, with fewer dollars on thinner spend. So in the old days, I'm not even talking old days, I'm talking like 10 years ago, you take your budget, you produce really great content, and you put it into places, and then you see what works. And today, with even what we're doing in our agency, like, we're at fault because we're pushing this, but it's extremely targeted content going to extremely targeted locations, because everyone wants the insight and everyone wants to know that every single dollar is going to a positive outcome.
Right, but now you're sounding like the Republican again.
This is my okay. So this is my problem.
This is how it used to work in the good old days. We would get this gigantic budget. We'd put these resources into it. We would have a huge return. We'd come out with a great product, and maybe some people would buy some stuff as a result of that. I think the sooner that you accept that the model is changing, the sooner that you can start taking advantage of the new model that's emerging.
Listen, I accept this model. I don't want to sound too much in this recording.
I don't mean that personally.
No, I know. I don't want to sound too much like the devil's advocate here. I know, man. I've spent a year now trying to figure out what is going on in the future. So, and this podcast, these very conversations are because. Listen, man, I'll be honest with you. The whole purpose for this podcast is to be able to talk to people like you. Just have an excuse to talk to smart people about these challenging things that we're facing and help share that with other listeners. But I don't know. At a certain level, I'm not scared of what we'll do in the future because we'll do something. I guess I'm scared of what if all of our opportunities disappear. That like we gotta really figure out a way to deliver stuff to people in a targeted fashion. That's what worries me. How do we target? What if this moves us backwards? What if this just takes us even further away from really targeted communications?
I would disagree. I don't think it will take you further away. I think it will actually ultimately be beneficial for both marketers and consumers at the end of the day. Again, the people that are blocking the ads are specifically the people who do not want to see the ads. If they wanted to see the ads, they wouldn't be blocking them. And the fact that they are identifying as people who don't like seeing ads, why would you spend a lot of money and time and resources trying to reach them anyway when you know that they have a negative relationship with online advertising? I think it's time to be creative. It's time to find new ways to reach those people. It's time to perhaps start measuring the success of campaigns in different terms instead of click-through rates and page views. It might be time to consider actual conversions. But I think there's a lot of things that are going to change and evolve in the industry, but ultimately I think it is for the better for both sides. There's of course a few casualties along the way, as there are with any major changes and any major disruptions, but at the end of the day, disruption ultimately is a positive thing because it moves the world forward. And I think where we're going with advertising, I think consumers are going to enjoy advertising better in the future as a result of ad blocking. And I think that marketing will be more effective in the future because it needs to be. And I think ultimately the industry is going to get more sophisticated. And I don't think that we'll see a day where people, the whole world decides that advertising is terrible and we never want to see another ad again in our life. Nor do I think we'll see a day where brands decide we no longer want to spend money on marketing and advertising because there's no point. I don't think that'll ever happen. I think both are still going to continue on as they have. They're just going to change pretty radically, and they're in the middle of this transition.
Well, like when I was traveling last week,
Kyle was in Spain.
I was in Spain, and we were in a bar, and we needed to get some Wi-Fi, and the bar had Wi-Fi. All you had to do was watch a video and like them on Facebook.
Oh, gosh. See, that's the kind of stuff that I hate.
Is that bad? I don't know.
I hate that kind of stuff.
I didn't mind because I wanted Wi-Fi for free.
Was it in Spanish?
Yeah.
So you were like...
No, I hate that. Like,
no?
Was I listening? I don't know if I was listening to a podcast or...
You can unlike them later, so what? I mean, they're providing you a direct free service in exchange for...
Yeah.
It was a beer commercial.
When I was in Ireland, I was... first of all, in Ireland, they have free Wi-Fi everywhere, which is great, but I was at this place where I couldn't get it. And I had to download like a hotel booking app, kind of like Expedia.
That's too much.
So I download the app, I get the Wi-Fi, and then I have to delete the app, and I'm just oh man! So this is the kind of stuff that This is the kind of stuff I hate.
No,
right?
Yeah.
And I understand when I go to YouTube and I want to watch a music video.
Yeah.
I don't want an ad, and I understand that. I understand everything you guys are emotionally saying. I totally understand it, but I also, because I've been in this world, I also respect. It's like no one wants to pay for music. Everyone wants free music, but I respect that there is a cost structure to producing amazing stuff, and people need to be compensated. So I pay for all my music. I can understand people wanting to download everything, all of their TV shows for free. I got rid of cable because I think it's BS, but I pay for Netflix, and we have an Apple TV account, and we buy a season pass or something because I know that it's going to cost something to produce that. So where I'm at is in this world of banners and YouTubes and everything else, we are all of us around the table here are content producers. We all get paid to produce the content, and we can get a lot smarter at it, but I respect enough the fact that watching those 4 seconds that you can very easily skip that don't really take much time, a small annoyance, and hopefully it's such compelling, great content that is targeted, that it's in fact working. Let's not ruin the system, guys. That I know enough to know that is what's in fact supporting everything that we do. It's supporting all of our livelihoods.
From the journalist perspective here, because my industry was absolutely in peril not very long ago. Around the time that I was actually entering the industry, it was looking like I was coming to witness the final days of newspapers and magazines. And as a content creator, absolutely, there's a question of I need to get paid for all of my writing. Someone's got to pay me, and it's probably going to be the advertisers. But what's ended up happening is every once in a while, and by the same editors who are signing me, really good stories for the Globe and Mail or for Fortune or for Fast Company or wherever it may be, or for marketing, every once in a while they'll say, hey, we're partnering with a brand. They're paying extra for this piece. It's going to help keep the lights on. But it's going to be a piece of content that is relevant to their brand, but also really relevant and helpful to our audience. So we're going to mark down that it's sponsored content in big letters, but it'll be easily searchable on our website. It's going to be relevant to our audience. It's going to be written in the same style as all the other stories they find on our website. The only difference is, there's a company that's paying to put their name on it. And that, I think, is better than, I'm halfway through an article on Fast Company's website and an ad pops up and gets in my way and I have to click on the little box in the corner to continue reading my article. I would rather read through an article that is helpful to me, and it's still good content, it's good journalism, but there's a specific brand that is paid for that content. It's not about the end of advertising. It's sort of about a transition towards a different kind of advertising.
So can I just I got to respond to that. I agree with you if the article, the advertorial or whatever, if the article that is a sponsored post is well written and is relevant and is compelling, I agree with you. I was approached by a Canadian publication a few years ago where they wanted to do a feature on me, they said. And all I needed to do this feature was just, they want to write a feature. We start doing research. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm really honored. That's great. At a certain point, it turns out either someone's got to sponsor it or I got to pay for it or something. And I was like, this is BS. I don't have time or money to deal with this. But I guess where I get, when you're talking, the very same respect you have for the promoted article that is relevant because you see value in it, that in fact annoys me. But the way that I see a pre-roll as this great opportunity to give people amazing content that they will enjoy and they will like, and they just don't know that they like it yet, annoys you. And so I think what we're saying is that there's an opportunity, no matter the channel or the medium, to sponsor posts, to do advertising work. I think we're both saying the same thing. In fact, it's just they just have to be well done. But most of the advertorials I see are not well done. They're blatant.
Doesn't it remind you of when you're reading magazines, especially when we were younger, how there'd be like an article,
like 17 or something? What are you reading?
when you earlier
when I was a young lady,
reading 17 magazine.
Sure.
And I'm actually probably specifically talking about that because I used to read that all the time. But
the embarrassing moments that you have to share.
No, but you're flipping through and something looks like an article, but then you realize it was an ad, and then you just feel duped. And I feel like I don't trust those.
Away.
Yeah.
As soon as I see that they've been paid for, I'm like, nothing in this is true. It could never be true. This is terrible.
Well, I think that goes back to what I was saying about social media influencers, in that they're still figuring out how to strike a balance between, getting paid for their content and not, deceiving or taking advantage of their audiences. I think magazines and newspapers and other forms of media are still in the same process of figuring it out as well. How promotional can it be so that people aren't offended or upset when they get to the end and realize that it's an ad? How much should we mention the brand, or should we not mention the brand at all, but just have a topic that's generally related to the brand and stuff that they'd want to be, associated with? And people essentially vote on whether or not they like this by either sharing or not sharing, by reading or not reading. And after a while, the industry, both the social media influencers and the content publishers are figuring out what are the audiences willing to put up with, and where is the balance between having some form of sponsorship, some sort of revenue model without offending or annoying our audience.
So that was a conversation with Jared Lindzon. I want to thank him for coming on. It was feisty, right? Like, I don't want anyone listening to be left with the impression that I am some kind of out-of-date, old-school person. I just think about the fact that I have to sell things and pay people. So for me, it's like, ooh.
Yeah, right. You've got your wife at home. She's cooking pies.
What? What is that? I don't know what that means.
Isn't that what, like, a old school kind of guy would have?
An old school.
My wife does bake excellent pie. I don't know what you're talking about there. Anyway, if you want to check out, if you want that you're not, you'll be at home soon
That
enough.
I don't have a wife to make pies.
Oh,
Making
okay.
pies is
make
awful.
pies.
Anyway, let me get through this, guys. If you want to check out Jared directly, you want to contact him, reach him on Twitter, which is at jlindzon. That's Lindzon, or for our American friends, ZON. If you want to check him out online on his website, jaredlindzon.com. Listen, thank you again, Jared, for coming on. Now, real quick, before we wrap up this week's episode, we have breaking news. Leah, go ahead and hit us with the update.
How many weeks till Leah has her baby?
So it's 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks until I'm finished. My work here
Yeah.
is done.
Finished.
The hard work's done. And
Finish
you guys,
him. Is that where you're going? Mortal Kombat?
Pretty much, yeah.
Is that Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter?
No, it's Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Oh man, I used to love. Hold on. Let's side note. Side note. Did you ever play Mortal Kombat 1, 2, or 3?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Were you a
I play
Genesis
them
or
online now.
NES? Sega, right?
I
Yeah.
still play them.
You gotta play. You still play it?
Yeah.
Okay, so which character are you? If you had to be a character?
It alternates, but I liked Sub-Zero.
Raiden? Oh, Sub-Zero's
He was
great.
Oh, I don't remember her name.
The girl, Catania?
Yeah.
Is that her name?
I think so.
I don't know.
You
The purple
girl?
one?
I didn't have to think about it very much.
No.
I was the girl with the with the pigtails.
I don't know. I know who you're talking
Google
about. I
it.
don't know the name.
So, but what
She
are
had
you,
like a metal bikini.
So hold on, you said two people. So it was either what? It was Sub-Zero or Raiden?
He was pretty good, actually. No,
Yeah.
that it's in the third one, I think. The Cyrex, one of those robots. As they got, I think it was Mortal Kombat 3. They started having robot guys.
Yeah, I'm talking about. Come on, I'm talking about Mortal Kombat 1 or 2.
Liu
Let's-
Kang. That.
So I was a big fan of Sub-Zero as well, and I liked Raiden, but I also really liked the finishing move for Scorpion.
Well, he was pretty deadly.
He was good,
Yeah.
right? He's like, "Get over here!"
Yeah. That was pretty.
That was a good voice.
Pretty rough.
Yeah.
The movie, not so much.
If you
Oh, the movie. You know, I had the soundtrack on tape. You know, the like. Mortal
It was so
Kombat,
bad.
dun,
It was just-
dun, 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 dun,
And then they did a
Anyway.
second one.
Oh, I don't even remember that. But for some reason, I found the need to get into what is it, electronic dance music, EDM, well before.
I guess that's what that is. Yeah.
I think back then it was just called techno. But
Yeah.
yeah, somewhere I probably still have it on tape. But anyway, sorry, Leah, I interrupted you.
3 weeks.
3 weeks until you leave.
Well, I was going to say, don't Google Mortal Kombat girl bikini blonde.
Oh,
Not
are you just at the
advisable.
office looking at porn at
Not
this point?
advisable. Well, I didn't get what I was thinking I was going to get. Which
Your
is
face,
a picture
your
of
face
the
is turning red.
cartoon.
Your face is turning
Yeah, a
red.
picture of the cartoon that
Leah,
I used to choose.
I am going to have to put on accountability software. Look, your eyes are starting to water.
It's
We're
like,
going to have to put accountability
Anyways, 3
software
more
on
weeks and I'm gone. So enjoy me
Way
on
to-
the podcast now because it's just going to be Rolando City for you all after this.
It's gonna get
And
very
how many
dark.
days until, or how many weeks after that, and when the baby is to appear?
Oh, 2.5. When I'm
So
off, I'm
five
off
and
for
a
2.5.
half.
Yeah.
So you're at 34 weeks,
Yeah.
right? So really, your baby can come anytime now.
Yeah.
Not to freak you out or anything. Is the room
No.
ready?
No. What?
Is
no.
the clothes ready?
No, it's all
I
at
thought
my
you told
mom's
me you were
house.
going to get Jono to take care of everything for you.
Nope.
Yeah, he has not done that yet.
You know what? We haven't talked about it in a really long time.
He's too busy
MBA.
waxing his BMW.
He is polishing his MBA and waxing his BMW.
We haven't talked about his MBA in a long time, but that's not what I was going to say.
We're having a baby and he's going to England. So
what? He's going to England? When's he going?
Like the first week of June.
That sounds like a Grey's Anatomy episode.
Why? Is he taking like a pat leave or something?
Yeah, he's just going to go live there. No, it's his cousin's wedding. He's like 2 kids. Sounds terrible.
Oh man, you want to know something? So the other day, my kids were at they go at nighttime on Wednesday nights to like a youth group thing at the church. So it was just the baby who's 2 and my son Silas who's 4. Silas was getting ready for bed, and the older kids are gone. And I turned to my wife and I'm like, 2 kids is like really easy. And then it was just quiet, they're eating, they're going off doing their things. My wife's starting to do the dishes. I'm cleaning the food up. I'm like, how can people complain about 2 kids? Like, this is really, really easy.
Yeah, I keep thinking I'm going to look back on my last mat leave and be like, what a luxurious vacation. Because now, like, I have a toddler who's sick a lot, and he's
So with me just saying that 2 is really easy, like having a 2 and a 4-year-old is fairly easy, but
having a 1.5-year-old and a newborn,
having your second baby's the hardest thing. Not to freak you out, not to worry you at all, but by far the most stressful, uncontrollable, terrible.
My goodness. I'm sure it'll be fine. I deserve like super easy angel baby. After like my son is amazing, but it was not an easy baby.
You know what they say, right? Your kids are what you deserve from what you did to your parents.
I know, I was terrible, and so was John. John's parents are
so
both super conservative, super quiet people, and they've legitimately said to us, like, we're not sure where we got him, because apparently he was a maniac, like would never stop, was like running around. He's like, hey, like he broke windows. He was like crazy.
He's a maniac on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Is he doing things that he never thought he could do before?
Never thought.
Anyway. So that was the update on Leah's
long
baby.
Update today.
But listen, guys, thanks so much for joining me in this conversation, Kyle and Leah.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Jared for joining us. Again, we appreciate having someone of his caliber on the podcast. Is great. Not to say, anyway, we're going to cut that out, are we? And anyway, I just want to also thank Jared for being on the podcast this week. And thank you guys for listening. I suppose we'll talk to you next week. Is that the best way to end?
Weird finish.
Yeah. That's what I always say. Finish strong.
Okay.
Out.
Oh, it's so hot in here.